Jason, thank you so much for the time. I have been excited to have this conversation for a while now, not only because I'm a big fan of yours and your story is not only a unique one but a compelling one, but selfishly speaking, family loves this restaurant that you put together a few years back and is now booming here off of Palmer Lane between 45 Toll Road and Avery Ranch. Thought about all the different areas that we could start, but let's start very simply. Who exactly is Betty?
Betty was my mother, hardworking single mother. She started in the Ninfa's restaurant company early 80s. I think we were in Dallas. I think she was a hostess. My family moved to Houston and she started waiting tables there at Ninfa's. So my earliest memories were hanging out at the restaurant on the weekends, whatever, running around the restaurant as kids, me and my two brothers. And then she kind of worked her way up. She was an awesome server, and she worked her way up, and next thing you know, she's running restaurants. And Ninfa's was growing simultaneously in Houston and then Dallas and a lot of places. So they would move her around to different locations. So spent a lot of my childhood in different parts of Houston, whatever restaurant she happened to be at the time. So when I was in college, my father passed away, but she had taken a job with Ninfa's running all the Dallas stores. So she moved to Dallas. Meanwhile, I stayed back when my father passed to work at the Ninfa's in Houston that I was working at. I'd been working at Ninfa's since high school. Came to UT. Was a server. The first place I went to in Austin was the Ninfa's on 183 and 35, waiting tables on the weekends, paying for college. And then father passes, that's when my mom was commuting to Dallas. So I went back to Houston, continued working at the Ninfa's there and took care of my little brother. And then I was waiting tables, and as I got older, I got into the bar business, and she didn't no longer work at the Ninfa's, but she lived in the Dallas. She had moved to the Dallas area, and she passed in 2010. And Tex-Mex was a big part of our lives at that time. Like, it's all I ate. I no longer worked at Ninfa's. In college, I got into the bar business, but the full circle of all of this is when COVID came, bars were shut down. I took an opportunity to take a shuttered space and turn it into a Tex-Mex restaurant. So I didn't know what I wanted to do with the space, and I was like, wait a minute, I can open up a Tex-Mex restaurant, because I kind of know a little bit about that. Not much about restaurants, but at least what I grew up in. And I was like, I'm gonna call it Mama Betty's Tex-Mex and name it after a white woman, Betty. Like, you don't hear that, but kind of forcing a square peg through a round hole type thing, like that has to be the name. That's just, Mama Ninfa owned Ninfa's. Her son was Roland Lorenzo. He was the president of Ninfa's. He was the man. So I emailed him a long, heartfelt email saying, hey, Mr. Lorenzo, you might remember me from when I was a kid, but I want to open up a restaurant in Austin called Mama Betty's Tex-Mex Cantina. The mama is kind of out of respect to your mom, Mama Ninfa, and Betty is my mom who busted her butt for you for all those years. And long story short, he's like, good luck. Gave me a virtual high five and said, go get them. So here I am.
So before we get into your background and what has really all the lessons that you learned in running bars and bar restaurants leading up to this point, that really is your opus in a sense, what was it that you loved about Ninfa's as a kid? Not only a kid running around, but also somebody who was ultimately working for this restaurant group as well.
I love the food. Food's first and foremost. I think a lot of restaurants and even Tex-Mex across the board, even different parts of the country. Tex-Mex, it's kind of acceptable to order the cheapest food. It's okay, it's Tex-Mex, you know. And Ninfa's, the food was awesome. And it still is, but the food was amazing. And I grew up eating that food, and we didn't have a lot. So if my mom wasn't bringing home fajitas and quesadillas and queso from Ninfa's, I was having microwave bologna sandwiches, or, I mean, we all have our stories growing up poor, whatever. But like, I loved the food, and I got to eat it a lot. So I became kind of I'm not very diverse in my food. I don't have my favorite Mediterranean spot. You know, I like Italian food, sure, but I love Tex-Mex because it's ingrained in me now. So the food was the best part of Ninfa's, but something that Ninfa's had that not a lot of places concentrated on, and my mom, I kind of learned it without realizing she was teaching it to me, was there's an energy in that dining room. And this is when there were a lot of them. Navigation, Ninfa's on Navigation is great, and that's different now. It's what it is. It's an institution. But the Ninfa's I grew up going to, I could rattle off 10 from my childhood. There was always an energy when you walked in. And you can't always put your finger on it, but you were somewhere and something was going on. And there's elements of that I've tried to incorporate here, that I've probably incorporated throughout my entire career in the bar business, but that's what separated, to me, food first and foremost. Then there's an energy in the dining room, a feeling that you get from the service, from the ambiance, you know?
And look, the food is the most important thing for any successful restaurant. You have to be consistent with the food, because otherwise all the other stuff ends up not mattering all that much.
Yeah.
What was it that separated Ninfa's food-wise from a lot of these other places that were cutting costs with how they were bringing food in and then serving it to people?
Fajitas,
okay,
first and foremost, I think, and homemade tortillas.
Ironically, or perhaps not, that's what I always order when I come here.
It's not ironic.
Yeah.
There's a correlation there. I grew up thinking that those were fajitas. I didn't realize when I was starting this that I didn't think about Tex-Mex in this area of Texas is different than this Tex-Mex and this Tex-Mex. But when we opened, our first night of opening, my kids got out of the car and we parked in the parking lot, and our mesquite grill was running, and my daughter said, "Dad, it smells like Houston." And I was like, because we go to El Tiempo all the time, which the Ninfa's family now owns. It's heart of Ninfa's resides in my mind. I don't go to Ninfa's in Houston. I'm in Houston all the time. Yeah. I only go to El Tiempo. My mom's old bosses, the Lorenzos, everybody that started Ninfa's, they went bankrupt or whatnot, and 25 years ago, they started El Tiempo. So El Tiempo, to me, when I refer to Ninfa's, the heart of Ninfa's resides in El Tiempo. I love it. When I go to Houston now, I eat there twice a day. Like, no shame. Staff knows me. I'm here for lunch and dinner. It's just the way I'm a basic guy. Tex-Mex. But so fajitas are important. Quality. The homemade tortillas. I grew up with the tortilla ladies exposed on the floor making tortillas. My brothers and I would run up to them and ask for a little dough ball. And it's funny, when I think of that, the tortilla ladies never really smiled. I don't know what that was. I know they were nice, but it was really funny. They would emotionlessly hand us our dough balls to play with or whatnot. Yeah. So that sticks out in my mind, and that's something I've tried to copy here or try to recreate, is that the freshness. You're being reminded when you see the tortilla ladies on the floor in the dining room like we have here. They're working. You're eating fresh food. When you come tonight or whenever you eat here and you look over, you can see your food being made. And
look for a sort of stoicism with the tortilla ladies too.
Yeah, they're nice. They're really nice here. So maybe that was a generational thing. I'm not sure about that.
The fresh made tortilla things is such an easy indicator for me when I walk into a place as to whether or not I need to treat this place seriously and get the fajitas or go in a completely different direction. I will ask the service staff, are the tortillas made in-house? Well, the corn are, but the flour aren't, or the flour are and the corn aren't. I know at that point which tortillas I'm getting if it's one or the other. If it's neither, then I'm probably going to get a salad with some grilled chicken on top.
That's so true, and I do the same thing. And I realized, man, restaurants, it's hard to make it. It's hard to make it. It's hard to make money, and the machinery used to make the tortillas is expensive. The labor is real. And it's an item that we give away for free, basically. Like, it's included in a lot of stuff, but you could sit there and order fajitas and then kill us in tortillas, and we'll just keep bringing you tortillas. That's the way it works. I mean, you restaurants could get taken advantage of a little bit, whatever. But my point being, I've gone to authentic restaurants before, Mexican, Tex-Mex, whatever, and the food's good, and then you get the tortilla, and you can tell it came off a truck. But I understand, like, you have to cut costs. That's kind of an easy out, and it's a non-negotiable for me. Yeah. The fajitas and the tortillas are non-negotiables. Like, if I go out of business, I'm gonna go out of business making fresh tortillas. I'm not gonna cut these percentage points over here by buying tortillas off the truck. So I think you can put average food in a great tortilla and it tastes great, but you can't put good food in a store-bought tortilla and it still tastes great. That's kind of my motto. So head down, tortillas are non-negotiable.
Was it a difficult conversation or a difficult thing to have to go back and forth with yourself or with the folks that you were putting this restaurant together with in terms of making sure that everything that you are serving in-house is done so freshly? Because that obviously adds a level of cost that a lot of restaurants avoid by getting things pre-frozen or getting things that have already been prepped to a certain degree.
Yeah, no, it was never even a thought to do frozen. It was just me asking my mom's old bosses, and there's people that still work at El Tiempo that worked at Ninfa's, like, how do y'all do that? And they say, you do this. I'm like, okay.
Literally just you asking questions and then being nice enough to share what they know.
Yeah, and it's more like, it's you marinate the beef right before it goes on the grill. It's not soaking for 24 hours. That type of help. But frozen, you can taste frozen from a mile away, and that's just not what this was ever going to be. So it was never. I never had to debate with myself. These beans cost this. These beans cost that. No, it's the beans are the beans, and we got to figure out how to execute it. That does kill me on labor. Fresh food kills me, but thank goodness we can afford it because we're busy enough, you know?
Yeah,
yeah,
that is a key. You talked about the environment as well, and the environment is something that you took cues from how Ninfa's did things, but you've also taken cues from your own experience of owning and operating bars and then also bar restaurants too. Yeah. What were some of the most important qualities as you were taking all of this information and bringing it together to create what is now Mama Betty's in terms of striking the right chord with the environment? Some of the things that people may not necessarily think about when they come and enjoy food in this restaurant.
So me and my best friends opened Chuggin' Monkey in 2002.
I definitely spent a few dollars on that, so thank you for that.
And that parlayed into a lot of other bars, Dizzy Rooster, The Mark, Molotov, and Dogwood, and all the iterations of Dogwood. But something that, on 6th Street, those buildings are either like 22 feet wide or 44 feet wide. There's competition everywhere.
Oh, is it one or the other?
I think so. There's those numbers I just gave you have some, just are correct in some way, but they're shotgun bars and streets crowded. And back then, and there's a lot of operators like me, we're all in our late 40s now, somewhat early 50s, that we started off as bartenders and door guys on 6th Street in the 90s, and some of the more prolific area food and beverage guys in Austin started kind of like me at the door or as a bar back or whatever. So what I'm trying to say is you're fighting for all this business, so every song counts. Like if you play the wrong song, if it's exciting and it's 10:30 and you're building up your crowd and then your DJ or you pick the wrong song, you can physically watch half of your place leave just to go. This is back then, I don't know what's going on now, but you can see them leave. So every song matters, every element of service matters. The whole idea being these people can leave. They have a million other options. Like, and it's not like we have 10 restaurants next to us, that would be scary, right? But these bars that people had to leave, then it was like, well, what do these people want? Well, if they're talking, can they feel the music? Are they enjoying the music? How's the volume? When they go to the restroom, is the restroom clean? And especially on 6th Street, with the bartenders being the main source of service, how does the bartender on 6th Street make you feel? Do you feel cool? In my mind, when Brad, Chad, and I would bartend, we would be like, we want you to feel good. We don't want you to leave. So we want you to feel cool. You are spending your hard-earned money. It's Friday night. and you are here, and you could be anywhere. There's 60 bars on this street. But so how do we keep you here? Well, it's by making you feel cool. You're giving us your money and you're tipping us. So why don't we do what we can to make you feel cool? I call it making people feel cool. So as we would open more bars and stuff, I would call it thinking like a drunk person, and sit at a bar and look around and feel, what do you like? What makes you feel good? Why is this room weird? Like, why do I not like it here? And it's the sound, it's the ambiance, it's the service. So there's little things, lighting, audio, that I've kind of taken with me, that when I had the opportunity to do this, it was a scary time financially. I didn't know if I could do it at all because of COVID. But when the bars were able to reopen, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get the best sound system of any restaurant in Austin. Which that sounds like really pompous or whatever, but I have the same sound system that I have for 10,000 square foot loud, fun bars.
An expense that restaurants don't normally incur.
You would never spend some of this money I spent on a shopping center space or lights. We have like 125 sources of light in the ceiling, which sounds obnoxious, but the way it balances you out, you look a little more attractive. You feel better when you look in the mirror in here, or when you take a picture with your significant other. You just feel better because there's a balance of light.
It's not just a balance, there's a rainbow effect that's happening as well. The lights are constantly, you explained all of this to me, so
I'll tell you, in Nashville, we opened up a Dogwood in Nashville, and we met this lighting company. They're awesome, and they kind of nightclubbed that Dogwood there a lot, and it was like really cool, the power of what their product, they could changing colors and stuff, and so like that's like, we had a DJ in Nashville, it was a big deal. Well, when I was designing this, I called them, I was like, can you bring those same products here, but I don't need it to be in your face flashy, but I love the subtle change. I like movement. So like, well, this is an example, this light right here is moving. I mean, who does this in a shopping center Tex-Mex restaurant? It's kind of weird, and maybe it's not a good idea, but the idea is this light it's literally chasing itself. So there's something going on, and I think subconsciously, as this light over here is changing colors and this one's turning red and this one's turning amber, it's not a nightclub feel, but you are like, something's going on here, there's movement. And the movement motif applies to like the tortilla lady. They're working on the floor, there's movement, there's stuff's going on, there's a lot of mirrors in here, there's a reflective surface on these pendants. So when you're looking up, you actually see movement because it's reflecting down, and I get lost in like that. It's more fun than it is anything. But at the end of the day, I think it all just the movement lends itself to the energy that I'm describing. There's just an energy. We have speakers in our walkway, which is kind of a common sense thing at a bar. But most restaurants, when you walk up from the parking lot, the front door is still an extension of the parking lot. Not fun. Then you walk in, and oftentimes it's a standard drop ceiling, white drop ceiling, and it's kind of still an extension from the parking lot, you know? My idea here is when you walk up to the door, you're like, whoa, I have speakers out there. And you're like, whoa, something's going on here. And you open the door, and I kind of want it to punch you in the face. And there's a fine line between being obnoxious and punching you in the face, but you feel like you're not at home anymore. You're not in the parking lot anymore when you walk into Mama Betty's. And that's kind of what I was trying to describe about my childhood at Ninfa. Like Friday nights, to me, that was electric. Like,
yeah, I feel like I remember there being speakers outside the front doors at Ninfa's.
I don't remember that specific. I don't remember that, but I do remember the energy that I would feel, and the same thing is at El Tiempo now. But like, there's just, you are somewhere. You're not just grabbing a bite and heading back home. Like, you don't want to leave because you don't want your Friday night to be over because you're at this place.
And you're right that there's a balance to be struck there, because you want the music to be loud enough that it can be heard and appreciated, but not so loud that it's drowning out the conversation. And it goes beyond just the speakers or the music that you're playing. I mean, you do put that effort into having insulation on the ceilings that keeps the music from reverberating too much. And I told you this before you and I ever had this conversation, that my family complimented the music because it is a bunch of Spanish remakes of a lot of popular American music. And there may be some originals in there too, but we're like, oh my gosh, this song, but it's this song in Spanish. My wife has done that, I've done that, even my kids have done that too. So you are striking all those different chords with the playlist that you put together. That is something that has taken you a couple of years to get it built up to this point, and I'm guessing it's a continual work in progress. So I'm guessing just like you looking around and paying attention to all these little details and seeing what tweaks you can make, occasionally you might hear a song and either you wonder, ooh,
Shazam,
a good remake of this, or what is this song so I can add it to the playlist too.
I've Googled every en inglés, en español, live, vivo, Spanish versions of, top Spanish versions of English music, top English versions of Spanish music. When this was just an idea, for like a year and a half, I just built this playlist. I would drive to Houston for work. For 3 hours, I'd only listen to Tejano, and I would build this playlist. And I would drive in, add it, and I would go to that artist, listen, add it, and then and the music's everything to me. And I'm not some audiophile weirdo. Like I am basic, but that playlist. So I would come in here during construction, or before I even had the lease signed, I had a playlist going when I was negotiating the lease, and they gave me a key, and I would wake up super early, like at 4:30, go to Starbucks. I'd be the first customer. I would come here in the dark because my family's still sleeping for 3 more hours, and I would have my Bluetooth speaker, and I would work on my playlist, and I would use the music to try to envision how this would be laid out or what it would look like, and like literally try to like picture yourself in an architectural layout drawing, and then what does it look like? How high are these stools? So yeah, music is everything. And a friend of mine, the muralist that does all of our work, I had said this to her, and I forgot that I had said this, but she just commented on my post about Burnet, something along the lines of, when are you gonna play the music so the walls can marinate? And I guess I said that. To me, it's marinating the walls. So when we're in construction, I play the playlist, no matter what business it is, but I'm playing the playlist. I call it marinating the walls. Weird, but
It's not weird at all, that's poetry.
And as I conceptualize a place, I pick the playlist first, and then that's what I play whenever I'm trying to figure out what it's gonna be.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because the design of this place, I think, is conducive to people wanting to come here as well. You took over a restaurant that not only was a lot flatter than this, there were walls separating different dining areas, but you opened everything up. What was your intent in having a sort of tiered design with how Mama Betty's goes from, I guess, east to west, or maybe it's south to north? So
what it used to be was a very cavernous, dark place with like some basket light fixtures with bulbs in the white light bulbs in the fixtures. And it was very dark and weird. I used to eat here in 2013. We bought our home across the street. So I would eat here for like 8 years, never knowing that I'd be in this building one day. And I used to instinctively pick it apart, like because I'm in the bar business, because I grew up eating Tex-Mex, and that's what was here before us. And I would just be like, man, this could be so much better. This could be so much better, whatever. Well, then when I had the chance, when it was like, became a reality that place was out of business, this is right at the beginning of COVID, I was like, oh, I think I have a lot of ideas for that place because I'd already been here. So an example of that is where we're sitting right now is elevated, but we used to be behind some weird wall and arches, and people used to be sat back here and literally forgotten about. Like literally had to get up and leave and go eat at Taco Bell because the server never came to them ever. So my idea was, let's make the worst part of the space the best part. So I wanted this elevated space, so you can see when you walk in, you can see your community can see you. Everybody here can see everybody. So no matter how far you're sitting from the front door, you're not in a bad seat, is the idea. So right now we're 21 inches above them. So there's chairs, booth, an elevation of heads right here. And then against that back wall, that's 7 inches elevated. So they're 28 inches up. So there's another head. So it's 3 tiers of people. And this is stuff I would do like at 5 in the morning when I was playing the playlist, like trying to figure out what can make this cool, what will people like. Like I want you to not be upset you're sitting in the back corner, because the back corner might be the best seat now.
You know how I know that worked? Because every time we come here and we get sat up here, I see the look on my kids' faces. They're happy.
Yeah.
They feel like royalty because they're above everybody else. And they'll run outside to the turf area to play here and there. Like, even as they're walking through the restaurant, there's like a sense of importance as you're going down those stairs and going out to kick the soccer ball.
You're kind of on display, like, oh, who's coming down the stairs?
Exactly. There's a little bit of a catwalk feel.
And it's just a couple steps, but it's just an elevation change. You're not, and it's just stuff like that I had the time, unfortunately, to dwell on. And then to kind of play games with and just think kind of subconsciously, like, what do you like? What do you like?
Speaking of the outdoor area, that is another one of those things that I think separates this place. You've got a large deck area. It's partially covered, partially uncovered. So when the weather's nice, the entire thing is in use, but the covered part allows you to be a little bit immune to the conditions, whether it's hot or cold.
Yeah.
You can drop the drapes down, you can turn the air on, or you can turn the heaters on. But on top of that, beyond the outdoor deck, there is that turf area for kids to play. Just how important was it to make sure that you take care of that little detail and catering to the families who would be coming to here over and over again?
Well, opening this, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not a restaurant person. And so the patio at the previous place wasn't as big as this is. It was all common area. It was just rocks and some sharp bushes. And I asked the landlord, I was like, if I sign this lease, can I put a fence here? And he was like, oh, I don't care. Ask that neighbor. They could technically do half, but it's a bike shop. The neighbor was like, cool. And I was like, so I can do this. And it was kind of my, it kind of what pushed me, what told me you can work, this can work. If you can screw this up, but if you have a 3,500 square foot patio anywhere in Austin, you're gonna be okay. Like, you could suck inside, the kitchen can suck, you can not know what you're doing, but if you have a patio, you're gonna be able to pay some bills and figure it out. So that was kind of my, okay, I can do this.
There's places that I'm not gonna throw under the bus right now that definitely qualify as not having good food, but always being popular because they have that outdoor area.
Great for them. So like, that was my, you don't know what you're doing, but this can work if you can do that patio. So then it became about turf, and I was gonna do a playground at first, because another neighboring restaurant does, and I was like, well, you're guaranteed people if you have a playground. Playground's expensive. Insurance is expensive for playground, or I was told it was.
It's why playgrounds have gotten so lame over time versus the playgrounds that we were accustomed to in the 1980s and early 90s.
Little danger aspect to it.
But kids don't need a lot. They just need an area where they can run around and play tag or have a ball to kick around or throw around.
And it seems like kids really like turf. Like, there's something about turf that makes you think, I need to go tackle my friend because we're going to land on turf. And I had some crushed granite where the wooden deck is, the composite deck is now, and I don't like eating an expensive food. I don't like spending that much money to eat on crushed granite. So I will always avoid crushed granite at all costs if I have to choose between crushed granite and turf. Like, turf, something feels clean, and kids are attracted to it. Turns out I did not need a playground. These kids are happy. So I'm glad. And then it's easier to add a playground later than it is to take a playground out later.
We talked about the fajitas, and they are amazing. The carnitas are incredible. I'm not going to ask for the secret on the chicken breast, but the chicken fajitas, I don't know if I've ever had a better, more tender chicken than what y'all serve with the fajitas.
That's when we get it right, by the way.
Well,
consistency's a challenge.
I know that you are very critical. I have never had the chicken, and I've thought that this doesn't meet the standard that you guys have set. So
it's so good.
We're gonna put the fajitas aside for a second because I want to ask you some of your other favorite things that you guys serve in this restaurant, food-wise.
Well, quesadillas. I love the beef fajita so much, and they really are tied to my childhood. I've tried to duplicate that flavor as much as possible. So at the end of the day, it's tortillas, cheese, and beef fajita. So the quesadillas I can do all day. We have a cool twist. It's called a shrimp Diablo quesadilla. Our shrimp is a little spicy, and then we take that Diablo butter and we baste the tortilla for the quesadilla in it, so you get the spicy flavor in the tortilla and the shrimp, and so the tortilla doesn't turn out to taste really spicy. You're not like chugging water, but it adds a lot of flavor. And we have a dish called Mexican fried rice. I was trying to think creatively, and I can't cook, and our awesome kitchen manager at the time, I was like, let's do a twist like fried rice. And I was like, can you make something like, and just make it taste kind of Tex-Mex, but it actually be fried rice. So we have a dish called Mexican fried rice that I scrape the bowl clean every time. And like, it's very fulfilling. This is so good, you know? And I say that all the time, like when I'm talking to friends, like, the food is so good. And I don't mean that in a please come eat here way. I'm like, I can't believe that I own this place, that I can go in that kitchen and just pick some meat off the grill and eat it if I want.
It's incredible.
It's crazy. Like I grew up loving this food, eating it as much as possible, and now it's at my disposal.
Well, I don't want to end up regretting this, but you guys serve entirely too much meat on the fajitas for one, which means that I have...
Oh, you think so? I could raise the price. I need to raise the price.
I have enough meat for that next meal too.
That's
because
awesome.
you give 3 tortillas, and as you said, you'll bring out more tortillas if you need to. The 3 tortillas is a perfect amount for me, and then there's that little bit of leftover meat that ends up going on a salad for lunch the next day.
Have you had the grilled onions? Those are.
Oh yeah.
So the onions are awesome. Like I make onion tacos out of the bed of onions. This isn't a commercial, I know. I'm just like, this is me excited about this food. But when you add the grilled onions, it takes up a lot of that belly space, so you maybe feel more like the beef fajitas are enough of a serving, but they're so dang good, dude. So good. So I'll shut up about how good the food is.
Okay, so I don't want to put you on the spot here, but all the food is made fresh. But even a place that makes all of their food fresh might be able to cut some corners with regards to the drinks that they're making.
Yeah.
What about the most important thing at a Mexican or Tex-Mex restaurant, the margaritas? How fresh are those?
Extremely fresh. Fresh lime juice. Yeah, all of our specialty cocktails are as fresh as can be. Yeah, I'm addicted to that too, by the way. I love the margaritas.
Yeah, no, those are really good. I've had the Mexican martini before. That's a really good one. And like I said, sometimes I want to come in for a beer. You guys have Carbach ready to go. You've got Negra Modelo, which is one of my favorite Mexican beers. That's what I get my micheladas made with.
Yep.
And so that's no expense really spared there either. So last couple of questions now, Jason. This is the first of what is going to be 2 Mama Betty's locales. The second is coming to Burnet Rd. So even though this is technically Austin, I consider it Cedar Park. I'm a Cedar Park guy. I like to take this place as my own. The second Mama Betty's is going to be purely Austin, though, on Burnet, just south of Anderson Lane. What can people expect out of that? Obviously, you're going to try and replicate what you've done here. Is there going to be anything that makes it unique? And what else can folks expect who are champing at the bit, but maybe this location is a little bit far for them if they live south, let's say?
Well, we have a professional designer this time. I designed this place, which I am proud of, but we're up in the ante just a little bit with that on Burnet. Obviously the same menu, some of the same design elements, layout is similar. It's the same size, different elements of the layout, the elevated space, the tortilla lady, the bar, the sliding door, the garage doors to the patio. Those are all elements that will be on Burnet Rd. We're real fortunate because it's a big space. It's a big space, and when you're driving down Burnet, like, it's in your face. You can't miss it. Burnet has a lot of smaller buildings, which lends itself to smaller restaurants, which is great, a lot of character. But this is new construction. It's a 5-story office space above with retail below, and we have this pretty prime patio spot right with the patio right on Burnet Rd. So a lot of the same playlists, same fajitas, and we're opening a cocktail lounge next door to complement it. So even if you're not going to dinner, not just a place to wait for your table, cocktail lounge, but its own brand and identity. It's called the Foxtail Lounge for what that's worth. So keep your ears open for Foxtail Lounge.
I assume y'all are going to do something similar with the neon out in front that's pointed out towards Burnet Rd to really draw people's attention to the building, and then that open area is going to be right there as well. I mean, people driving home from work are not going to be able to help themselves but to either stop that night
I hope so.
or make a mental note and bring the family back there in the next couple of nights.
Well, similarly, there's a place for kids. There's actually, it's not that many large patio spaces at restaurants. So yeah, you're going to walk by and be like, oh, I don't mind waiting an hour for my table for my family of 4 or 5 because my kids will be running on that turf and I'll be having a margarita.
Yeah,
that's kind of the idea, right?
Well, and the environment is perfect too. Like we've talked about, the music is the right volume. There's just a good ambiance in here. It's like everybody is in here having a good time, having a good conversation, or just enjoying themselves because of the food, because of the drinks, and of course because of the company as well.
Yeah. When I look at reviews on Google and I don't, I pay them too much. I give them too much credibility, and I live and die by them too much. It's not healthy. But when someone says the food, the service, and the ambiance were awesome, I'm like, that's it. We did it. Or similarly, the fajitas, the tortillas, and the margaritas were great. I'm like, we did it.
You've checked all the boxes that I'm
my boxes are
usually
checked.
hyping this place up with.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, last question now. We started with your mom, Betty. We're going to end with your mom. What does your mom, Betty, mean to you?
She was a very proud woman, hard work. She's hard work. So this opportunity was like to be able to put her name in lights. Like I didn't realize that. I knew this was a big deal and it was a very emotional thing for me to do this. But when the sign was done and it was being installed, I was like, oh shit, I can't fail. Then my mom's name would have to come off this building. Like that's literally my mentality, and that's making her proud. And she was proud of her sons, but it's the driving force, like to worry about small details and to not take your foot off the gas. Like, don't stop. Don't let this go away. Don't take it for granted. You know, my partners and I have had great success in the bar business. We've had a couple swing and misses, and the wind has been at my back here this entire time. And I'm very conscious of like, if you don't take it for granted, especially in a restaurant, because it'll leave you as fast as it came to you. And you can't just get it back in this business, you know? But the idea of making her proud and having that idea of like, man, if she was here, she wouldn't believe this. She was very overbearing, so it wouldn't happen if she was here. Like I couldn't handle this with her as my partner, right?
Yeah.
But the whole idea, like, wow, we have to kick ass so she continued. If she were here, so she would continue to freak out, you know.
Jason Carrier, owner and operator of Mama Betty's Tex-Mex Cantina. Thank you for everything, man. Thank you for this restaurant, first and foremost, but thank you for the friendship that we've gotten to strike up over the last month plus now. I look forward to continuing that.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the support. I genuinely, seeing you in here, I'm like, that's really cool that you choose to come here with your family and spend y'all's hard-earned money at our restaurant. Like, I don't take that for granted. I appreciate all of this.